Okay, so we're going to do your Tempera Paint Skill Builder page. You'll need to write your name up at the top, and then the first rectangles we're going to paint directly onto this paper, but this is going to be separate from your sketchbook, and that way when it dries, we'll be able to cut them out and glue them into your sketchbook because it will seep through, and we've copied your sketchbook back-to-back pages. We don't want to seep into the next page, so we're going to do it on a page outside your sketchbook, let it dry, and then cut it out and glue it in. So for this page, you need the 3 primary colors only. So you need red, yellow, and blue, and you need black and white. When you get to the bottom of the page, these rectangles down here, you can get additional paint, but when you start, these are the colors that you need: red, yellow, and blue, red, black, and white. So this first one says use cool colors to create 5 tints. So the only cool color on your paint tray is blue. So everyone in the room is going to be using blue to do this first strip. And you're doing tints, so when you mix white with a color, that makes it a tint. So you're going to be mixing blue and white together. So what I'm going to do is take my blue and move some of it over because I need my blue later as well. So I'm going to move some of my blue out of this divot, about half. And I'm making tints, so now I'm going to take some of the white and mix it with the blue. I don't need to keep the white pristine and clean because I'm going to continue to mix it, and this is the only place I really need white on my paper. So I'm just going to mess up the white and get some white on my paintbrush and mix it around with this blue that I moved. Now this will be my darkest tint because it has the least amount of white and the most blue right now. So mix that up. Very carefully paint inside this first rectangle. Scoop some more white, move it over, mix it around, and each of these boxes should look different when you paint them. Now you see how this is like full of paint? If that bothers you, you can pull your paintbrush across the edge of the divot to squeeze some of that paint out of there so it's not so big and thick. So if I were to paint this rectangle and it match, which it doesn't match the first one, but if it matched the first one, I would get more white and add it and then paint it. Also, if I started to paint it and it matched, I would just leave it there, get more white, mix it in, and paint right over the top of that color. So now I'm adding more white. There needs to be a clear difference between all 5 boxes. So if you have to go back and mix 2 times to get it to change, then you mix 2 times. All right, so now I'm ready to rinse my paintbrush off. I'll use the teeth at the bottom of the water basin, run my paintbrush across that. I have some paint on the gold part of the handle, so I go over here to the empty space and swish around and that comes off. And then I pull it across the sponge. You need a clean paintbrush to dry off on a clean sponge. You don't want to get your sponge all messy. So now I'm going to use warm color to create 5 shades. That means warm plus black. I have 2 warm colors here, red and yellow. So I can choose either of those and then add black. But since the red is next to the black, I think I'm just going to go ahead and use red. Take half of this red and move it over. And then I'm going to use black. Again, like with the white, I don't need to keep the black pristine. So I'm just going to take a small amount of black. A little bit of black will make a big change. So a small little touch of black, mix it around. This will be my lightest shade because it has the least amount of black in it. It made a slight change to the red, so I'm going to paint that in the first box. And if you start right and work left, that's okay too. So now I'm going to take a little bit more black, move it over. And I'm going to keep doing this until I have all 4 of these rectangles filled in. Now I have my 5 shades painted, so I'm going to rinse my paintbrush off. Dry my paintbrush off. Okay, and so now we're going to create a color wheel. they're labeled red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. Notice that I did not have you get orange, green, or violet because I want you to mix those, and I can tell if you mixed them or not. So I need red, yellow, and blue painted first, so I'm going to start with my lightest color first and paint yellow. Now you don't have to paint this pie piece in perfectly, just kind of getting it on there as best you can, that's okay. Rinse your paintbrush off, dry your paintbrush off, red. Primaries, so now I need to make my secondaries. So the way that you know what two colors to mix to make them are the two colors on the opposite side. So to make orange, I use red and yellow and I mix those together to make orange. So I rinse my paintbrush off, dry it off. I'm going to move some yellow over to an empty space. Rinse my paintbrush off because I don't want to mess up the red. Dry my paintbrush off, move some red over and mix it around to make orange. You usually need more of the lighter color and less of the darker color. So as long as this orange doesn't look like red or yellow, it's an orange. Rinse my paintbrush off, dry my paintbrush off. So yellow and blue mixed together make green, so I'm going to mix some yellow and blue together. You don't need a whole lot of this to fill in these pie pieces, so a small amount will be enough to get you to fill in that pie piece. And finally, red and blue together make violet. So now I have my tints and shades on my color wheel. So at the end, it's to mix a new hue. Hue is a fancy word for color. So you're going to mix a variety of hues, 3 different hues. This plus this makes this. So pick anything on your tray. So I've got green here, so I'm going to take some green and paint that in the first box. Okay, rinse my paintbrush off. Right, I'm going to add some more blue to that green. I got to put the blue here to say that green plus blue. So I should have probably painted my blue first. So take some blue, paint that here. So I've mixed blue with green, and now I need to mix one more color with it. So rinse my paintbrush off, dry my paintbrush off, and let's see, what color do I want to mix with that? I think I'm going to mix white with it. So I'm going to take a little bit of this clean white, paint that here. Okay, so now I've painted my white, so I'm going to mix green, blue, and white together to make this color. So I need to add white to the blue and the green that I mixed together. And now I've created a new hue, a new color that I paint here. So it's like a math problem that shows me if I ever want to make this greenish color again, I know I take green and blue, mix them together, add some white, and I get this color. And so I've mixed a variety of hues to create a new hue. So now you're going to take this and put this on the drying rack with your name at the top. Once it's dry, next class we'll cut these out, glue these into our sketchbook. This and your paintbrush you're going to take over to the sink. You're going to run water, clean this out, use the paintbrush to wiggle around and get this clean. It should be white like this, the way that you found it, and then it gets stood up in the dish strainer to dry. If you're the last person to use these, you will clean these out. Pour this out upside down on the black towel. This goes inside the cabinet with the basket.